Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is a reading roundup. In this video, I'm going to tell you about some of the books I've been reading recently that are not connected to Cloak and Dagger Christmas. And the first book is a book that I received an e-copy of through Book Sirens for review, and it was called Murder at the Village Fete by Catherine Coles, and I'll put a picture here. This was the second in her Tommy and Evelyn Christie mystery series. This is a historical mystery set in East Yorkshire in 1921. So that's a time period that I really enjoy for historical mysteries. Tommy is the new Earl of Northmore. He used to be a police officer. He was a detective in the police force. His wife Evelyn, she was a police officer during World War I. She was a WPC. This book is told in the third person, and they have some guests staying at the house, including her father and her mother, and her sister's involved. There's some guests staying at the house. They are also planning to have a fete for the village on their grounds. And so while they're preparing for all of that, one of their house guests is found dead down by the river on their property. And so, of course, the police get involved and an inspector arrives to investigate. This one was good. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the setting and the time period. I also enjoyed the characters, especially Tommy and Evelyn. I thought it was really interesting to watch them, and especially their relationship with each other, because they were investigating together, but they were also still trying to fit into their new roles of being Lord and Lady of the Manor. It's not something they expected to ever have to do, and so trying to figure out how to be those people, and how their servants expect them to behave in the house, how their families expect them to behave, how the villagers expect them to behave. So I thought that was a really interesting, an interesting part of the story. I thought that there was some awkward phrasing in it, which wasn't horrible. I thought it could have been easily resolved with some editing. And I also thought that there was kind of a relatively weak reason for them to get involved. However, that is a common problem in amateur sleuth cozy mysteries, is to come up with a really good reason for them to be involved. So, I was okay with letting that one go. In this book, the house guests are the primary suspects, and there were some good red herrings. I liked also that it had a denouement. Oftentimes books just end so abruptly, and I like to have a little resolution at the end, and this one definitely did. So I really enjoyed this one, and I would go back and read the first in the series. I also read Murder at Morrington Hall by Clara McKenna. This is the first in her Stella and Lindy mystery series. This is also a historical mystery. This one is set in New Hampshire, not New Hampshire. It's set in Hampshire in 1905. So I really like this time period. You don't actually get a ton of historical mysteries set in this time period. So this is in the Edwardian time period. And Stella is an American. She's from Kentucky, and she has come over to England with her father to sell some of their race horses. The family at Morrington Hall are, land rich, cash poor, classic, right? And so the Earl of Atherley, his wife, and his son, Lindy. What Stella does not know is that she is part of the bargain. She does not realize, because her father hasn't bothered to tell her, that she is expected to marry Lindy. And so she does not find out until they have arrived, and even then she still doesn't find out from her father. She finds out because she overhears some of the servants talking about it. And then the vicar who is there to do their wedding, he is found murdered in the library. So this one was really good. It was a really interesting time period. It's set in the New Forest, and so there was a lot about the ponies, for example, that live in the New Forest and how that works. There was a lot about horse racing at the time. Stella was a great character. I really liked all the characters actually, but Stella was such a great character because she doesn't really fit into this environment. She is a free-spirited American woman, and she doesn't really fit into the constraints of all the rules in Edwardian society. I really enjoyed this, and I've actually also already read the second one in the series, and I hope there's more because it was really good. So really great social issues, really good characters, and a good mystery. I also finished Queen Victoria by Lucy Worsley. I started reading this in Victober, but I finished it in November, which is great because I can count it for nonfiction November. I really enjoyed this. I thought she did a really good job of writing history in a way that was really accessible and interesting. I really enjoyed her format. So in this book, she takes 24 days in the life of Queen Victoria, and she chose those 24 days because they kind of changed her life in some way. And so yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I like Lucy Worsley's writing style. It's very readable. And it kind of just feels like you're chatting over a cup of tea. It's sort of what it feels like to me. And I noted one thing. Let's see. This was in the chapter about when Miss Nightingale goes to visit Queen Victoria at Balmoral. So, searching for something that she could do herself, Victoria came up with the idea of the Victoria Cross for soldiers, a medal for valor. As a personal thank you to Florence, she sent a female equivalent, a brooch with a red enamel cross, along with a warmly written letter full of concern for the well-being of Florence's patients at Scutari. Victoria was slightly shocked to discover that Florence had copies of this letter stuck up in every ward, but Miss Nightingale explained that many of the soldiers beg for a copy to keep as their greatest treasure, some saying that they will learn it by heart, and some how feeling they think it of the Queen to say what she has. Victoria listened and learned. She would explore this growing power of her pen. So I thought that was interesting that she kind of had an equivalent for Miss Nightingale, for Florence Nightingale. So yeah, if you've never read Queen Victoria by Lucy Worsley, I could highly recommend it. And then I read a novella to get me in the Christmas spirit. This is A Christmas Homecoming by Anne Perry. I actually read this for the Create Your Own Holiday Adventure Readathon. This was a book for read something that how did they word it? Read something that makes you think better of humanity or something like that. So anyway, so the reason why I chose this was because it said that this book lifts the spirit and rejoices the heart. And yeah, I guess that's true. But it was just a really good mystery, actually. So this is set in the very late 1800s, 1899, I think. And Carolyn and her husband Joshua are traveling with his theatrical troupe up from London to Whitby. And they have been invited to Netheridge to put on a play. The daughter of the house has taken the new novel Dracula, and she has turned it into a play. And so Joshua and his theatrical troupe are to put this play on in Whitby. And the idea is that that it's a kind of a special occasion because in the book, Whitby is where Dracula lands when he comes over to England. So doing the play in Whitby kind of has some, you know, marketing power, let's say. So they arrive just ahead of a snowstorm that hits and makes the roads inaccessible. And then, so they are stuck in the house and they know that they can't leave for a while until the roads are cleared for a few days, which is fine because they're practicing for this play. But the doorbell rings and there is a stranger on the doorstep who has had an accident with his carriage and needs somewhere to stay because of the storm. And so into this small house party arrives a stranger. And I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. So they're practicing for this play. Dracula was kind of a hard story to turn into a play, and so there's been a lot of back and forth with the actors and the writer to try and make it work. And this stranger has a lot of opinions, and a lot of his opinions are really good and they work. And there's a lot of discussion about the evil of Dracula and how they have to fight that evil. So that was an interesting part. And then this stranger is the one who is found dead, and they kind of need to figure out what happened. I really liked it. It was really fun. It was quick, it was pacey, it was very enjoyable. And then, because I've totally been in the mood for closed circle mysteries, I read Murder, She Wrote, The Murder of 12, and this is written by John Land. Now, I've never read any of the Murder, She Wrote books, but I am a huge fan of the Murder, She Wrote TV show. And so I was chatting with Donna on Goodreads, and she had just read this. And from her description, I realized that it's a closed circle mystery. And so I thought I'd give it a try myself. So this is an isolated closed circle mystery. Jessica has been staying in the small hotel in her town of Cabot Cove while her home is being rebuilt. And because this is the first one I've read, I don't know why her house needed to be rebuilt, but whatever. So she's staying in this small hotel. And the only other guests in the hotel are for a wedding party. That a massive snowstorm arrives. Massive snowstorm arrives. And they all get trapped inside the hotel. So it was a really fun setup for a isolated closed circle mystery. Before the storm hits, she goes with the sheriff and the doctor because a body has been found at an abandoned factory or kind of like mill or something just outside of Cabot Cove. And that, of course, plays a part in the events that happen. But like it really had that feeling of claustrophobia, of being trapped with a killer. It was unclear what was happening. Multiple guests get killed. And so that was really good. And it was also interesting to see in this case, it was really clear that Jessica was really feeling afraid for her own safety and for everybody else's safety, but that she was definitely afraid in this situation, which I thought was interesting to see her vulnerability like that. The only thing that took a little bit away from some of that tension was the fact that for a good amount of time, she still could call the sheriff or the doctor, and so she had outside help in the sense that she could still make phone calls. That didn't last forever, but because of that did seem to lower the tension just a little bit. But I quite enjoyed this, and I would read more. They are so totally cozy mysteries. But I mean, as I'm reading this, I am totally picturing the characters from the show in my mind, and so there was a lot of nostalgia to be factored into my rating of this book. And then I also read the next up in the Grant County series by Karin Slaughter, and this was Indelible. Now this one was really interesting. This one was super tense. So the book opens at like 8:15 at the police station, and so you find out who is at the station for whatever reason, and then two gunmen enter and start shooting. And so it is just like almost immediately you are in the middle of a super tense situation. You don't know who they are, you don't know what's going on, but they start shooting and then they take everybody else who's still alive hostage. So it is like just like this immediate threatening situation, which was great. But then you get that story interspersed with Sarah and Jeffrey from 1991. So this is before they're married. They had just started dating, and Jeffrey wants to take Sarah away for a weekend. They're going to go to Florida, but they end up going to his hometown and getting involved in a case that happens in his hometown. So you go back and forth between the events happening at the police station, modern, current day, and what happened in his hometown in 1991. And it's actually, she did it really well, because having these stories from 1991 allows the reader to take a bit of a breath. It relieves some of the tension. But I found that it also actually kind of increased tension as the reader just wanted to get back and find out what was happening at the police station. So she manages to just like keep that tension going, giving you some relief, but kind of always keeping you on the edge, which I thought was brilliant. So it was really good. I really love this series. And so again, you get to know more information about the characters in this one, especially Sarah and Jeffrey. You get to know about them. There's a lot of, about how our past can affect our present. Yeah, and it was just another really solid outing by Karin Slaughter. So that's what I've been reading recently. Have you read any of these books? I would love to chat with you about them in the comment section down below, and I will see you for another video soon. Bye.